Now you may say, why 1924? Because 1920 meant indenture is finished. But by then, in 1920, very few people were actually under indenture in Labasa. Most had become free. 1924. The reason why I have chosen 1924 is that that is the year that the CSR started smallholder farming system, the 10-acre plots. The 10-acre plots leased to individual farmers. And many of us in this room grew up on leased 10-acre farms in Labasa. That is where our culture, our society began. The little mandlis, kutis, mosques, and so on. The next date I have chosen, number 3, is 1954. But before I go to 1954, from 1920s to the 1950s, Labasa is completely isolated. There is no contact with Fiji Levu or outside world. Communication is very rudimentary. There is no radio, regular transport, and so on. And it is in this period of isolation that our distinctive Labasa culture emerges. We talk about our distinctive language, for example. It's because we developed our own rasmo riwaj, parampara, whatever you want to call it, in this period. Most significant period in the evolution of our community. 1954. Why 1954? 3 reasons why 1954. First, Fiji Airways starts its regular weekly, bi-weekly flights to Labasa. So for the first time, our people have an opportunity to travel. It was not everyone could travel because it was expensive, but nonetheless, an avenue opened up for mobility. Fiji Airways. The second is Krishna. Yeah, what? 1954, man. You were born in 1954, or there you are. That's good. The second reason why 1954 is that is when Labasa Secondary School started. 1954. And Mr. Naidu and Krishna, of course, would be one of the pioneer students of Labasa Secondary. And the important thing about Labasa Secondary in 1954 is that is the first and the only secondary school on the island of Vanua Levu. And that's when our students, for the first time, get an opportunity to get higher secondary education that until then had been denied. And that begins the brain drain. Because what happens, as you know from these 2 examples I've mentioned, they do their secondary school and they move on to Suva, and then many of them never return. And the third reason why 1954 is important is that is when Fiji Broadcasting Commission starts, 1954. And that's for the first time we hear programs in Hindi and English and so on. We hear about other places in Fiji Levu. There's a sense of connection and the connectivity as a result of radio communication. Radio becomes a very, very important medium of education for people who until then had been living in isolation. The fourth date I have chosen is 1968. Why 1968? Oh, right, okay. That's worth celebrating, and we have a star here. 1968 because that's the year University of South Pacific starts. USP starts. And so our students from Form 6, Form 7, there was no Form 7 then, Form 6 go to university. Until 1968, the opportunity for higher education was limited to a selected few, wealthy and well-connected who could go overseas. But with USP, a new revolution starts, giving opportunities for education to people, bright young students from poor families. So 1968. And the final date I have chosen is 1996. 1996. Any ideas why 1996? The main reason is 1996, why I've chosen 1996, is that's the year when ELTA begins to expire. And a lot of leases are not renewed. And so farmers were uprooted from land where they had lived for generations, migrate to Suva and find a niche initially in the mushrooming squatter settlements fringing urban areas. And the internal displacement of our people starts in a major way, And by the end of the 20th century, we are fully integrated into Fijian society and indeed into global society because of travel and technology. So once we were isolated people on a small island, well not small island, but smaller island, by the end of the 20th century, we are part of mainstream Fiji society. And dare I say, that Labasa people have made a disproportionate contribution to cultural and intellectual life of Fiji. A disproportionate contribution. So, ladies and gentlemen, my 5 minutes are long over, but I just wanted to say again how pleased and delighted I am to be among you. And I wish you, and especially I'd like to mention Nirla Pandey and her team who have done a marvelous job in organizing this event and in getting people from various parts of Australia here tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Brij Lal.